43 things about the Mississippi that defy logic, and some of these you won't believe. Number 1. Let's start small. In Mississippi, it's technically illegal to teach others what polygamy is. Not practice it, teach about it. Sensible law would just regulate actual marriage practices, but instead, lawmakers decided the mere concept needed banning, as if knowledge itself was the dangerous part. Could you imagine a classroom where the textbook just skips a page because the state said so? Number 2. Mississippi has towns where the speed limit changes 7 times within 2 miles, with 0 warning signs explaining why. Normal infrastructure logic says speed limits follow road conditions, curves, schools, intersections. Instead, some stretches just randomly drop from 55 to 25 in the middle of open farmland, then jump back up before you've even adjusted. Who's setting these limits? A dartboard. Number 3. The state legislature once spent actual session time debating whether to officially recognize Hot Tamal Trail as a cultural landmark, while infrastructure funding bills sat untouched. A reasonable government prioritizes roads and bridges. Mississippi prioritized snack branding. Delicious, sure, but priorities are priorities. Number 4. There's a stretch of the Natchez Trace Parkway that has no gas stations, no exits, and barely any cell service for over 100 miles. A normal highway includes rest stops at reasonable intervals. This one just expects you to plan your entire life around it. Would you ever attempt a road trip through here without a paper map and a prayer? Number 5. Jackson, the state capital, has had boil water notices so frequent that residents started joking the tap water came with a seasoning included. Basic municipal expectation, clean drinking water on demand. Reality, an entire capital city treating safe water like a luxury subscription service. Number 6. Mississippi still has counties that are legally dry, meaning alcohol sales are banned. Yet many of these same counties have liquor stores operating just across an invisible line, technically in a different jurisdiction, selling to the same customers who can't buy locally. The law exists, but everyone just drives around it. Who actually approved this blueprint? Number 7. Some rural Mississippi roads are still unpaved gravel, not driveways, actual numbered county roads that show up on GPS as legitimate routes. Your phone confidently tells you to turn onto what is essentially a dirt trail with potholes deep enough to lose a hubcap in. Number 8. The town of Belzoni proudly calls itself the catfish capital of the world and holds an annual festival, yet the actual catfish farming industry in the area has been declining for years. The branding never updated. Imagine moving to a town built entirely around an identity that's slowly disappearing. Number 9. Mississippi has a law on the books that technically prohibits profanity in public. Vague enough that, in theory, yelling in frustration after stubbing your toe on one of those gravel roads could be a violation. Nobody enforces it, but it's still there, just waiting. Number 10. There's a section of Highway 61, the famous Blues Highway, where the road narrows from 4 lanes to 2 with no merge lane, no warning sign until you're basically already in the squeeze. Standard road design gives drivers distance to adjust. This just hands you a last-second surprise and hopes for the best. Number 11. Several small Mississippi towns have city halls that are only open 2 or 3 days a week for a few hours at a time. Need a permit? Better hope your schedule lines up with theirs because government here apparently runs on a part-time basis. Number 12. The town of Tylertown has a local ordinance that technically restricts how many chickens a resident can keep, except the number allowed is so oddly specific and so rarely enforced that most people don't even know it exists until a neighbor complains out of spite. Could you imagine getting reported for chicken overpopulation? Number 13. Mississippi's official state symbols include both a state water mammal and a state land mammal, but neither was selected based on actual population data. They were chosen after a school children's vote decades ago and never revisited, even as ecological data shifted dramatically. Number 14. There's a bridge near Yazoo City that floods so reliably during spring rains that locals have an informal bridge calendar predicting which weeks it'll be impassable, yet no permanent detour signage exists. You're just expected to know. New residents find out the hard way. Number 15. The state once had a sales tax holiday specifically for hunting supplies, including ammunition, but no equivalent tax break for school supplies in the same year. Priorities, again, doing their own thing. And just when you think you've got Mississippi figured out, the town planners somehow get even lazier. Number 16. In the town of Vicksburg, several historic streets still follow the original 19th century horse and carriage layout, meaning modern fire trucks and ambulances sometimes literally cannot make the turns required to reach certain homes. Emergency response plans exist around this fact rather than fixing it. Number 17. Mississippi has more catfish ponds than any other state, yet several towns built directly downstream from these ponds have had recurring water quality complaints traced back to runoff. and the zoning laws that allowed ponds next to residential water sources were never updated. Number 18. There's a stretch of Interstate 55 where two exits, less than a mile apart, lead to the same destination via two completely different routes. One takes 4 minutes, the other takes 15, and the highway signage doesn't indicate which is which. It's basically a real-life choose-your-own-adventure with no instructions. Number 19. The town of Friars Point has a population sign that hasn't been updated in over a decade, still displaying a number nearly double the current population. Drive through, and the welcome sign is technically lying to you before you've even parked. Number 20. Mississippi technically has a law restricting how loudly you can play music from a vehicle, but the decibel threshold listed is so outdated it was calibrated for car stereo technology from before subwoofers existed. By modern standards, nearly every car on the road is in violation all the time. Number 21. There's a section of the Mississippi-Alabama border where the line was originally surveyed using 1830s methods, and modern GPS reveals it's off by several hundred feet in multiple spots, meaning a handful of properties technically exist in a different state than their owners' mailing addresses claim. Would you even know which state to vote in if you lived there? Number 22. The state legislature debated for years whether to change the state flag, while basic infrastructure bills for rural broadband sat stalled, meaning some towns got a new flag before they got reliable internet. This next infrastructure fail defies basic physics. Number 23. There's a low-water bridge near the Pearl River that was designed to be intentionally submerged during normal high-water periods, meaning for several weeks a year, a fully built paved bridge simply disappears underwater, and drivers are expected to just know not to use it. No barriers, no flashing lights, just vibes. Number 24. Mississippi has a state law that technically still references horseless carriages in outdated vehicle registration language, a holdover from early automobile-era statutes that nobody ever bothered to formally update, even as the rest of the code modernized around it. Number 25. The town of Sledge has an official population that, according to recent counts, is small enough that the entire town could comfortably fit inside a single big-box retail store. Yet it still maintains its own incorporated city government, complete with elected officials, for a population smaller than some apartment complexes. Number 26. There's an intersection in Hattiesburg where two state highways cross, but the traffic signal timing was clearly designed assuming equal traffic in both directions, except one direction carries roughly 10 times the volume of the other, creating backups that stretch for blocks during anything resembling rush hour. Number 27. Mississippi technically allows certain types of fireworks to be sold and used legally year-round in some counties, while neighboring counties ban them entirely, meaning the legality of a bottle rocket can change based on which side of an invisible line you're standing on. Have you ever seen a local law this inconsistent? Number 28. The town of Rolling Fork was devastated by a tornado, and during rebuilding efforts, several roads were repaved without restoring the original drainage systems, meaning the new roads now flood worse than the old ones did, essentially making the rebuild a downgrade in at least one practical sense. Number 29. There's a section of US Route 49 that splits into a 49 East and 49 West designation for a stretch where both roads run, for all practical purposes, in the same direction. A quirk of historical route numbering that was never corrected, leaving GPS systems and drivers alike mildly confused for decades. And somehow we're still just scratching the surface. Number 30. Mississippi has a law restricting the sale of certain types of Cinderella-style novelty wedding items unrelated to actual marriage. An oddly specific consumer protection statute that reads like it was written in response to one very particular, very strange incident nobody ever explained publicly. Number 31. The town of Glendora has an entire museum dedicated to a historical event, but the museum building itself sits on a road that floods so frequently during rainy season that the museum has had to temporarily relocate its exhibits inside the museum to higher shelves multiple times as a standard precaution. Built-in flood prep as part of the operating procedure. Number 32. There's a stretch of Coastal Highway 90 along the Gulf where the road was rebuilt after hurricane damage at the same elevation as before, despite engineering recommendations to raise it, meaning the rebuilt highway floods under the exact same conditions as the version that got destroyed. Number 33. Mississippi technically has two different state capitals referenced in old historical documents due to a 19th century relocation that was never fully scrubbed from certain legal archives, meaning some extremely old, still technically valid documents reference governmental authority in a city that hasn't been the capital in nearly 2 centuries. Number 34. The town of Tutwiler has railroad tracks that run directly through the center of town with at-grade crossings and no overpass, meaning when a freight train passes, which can take 15 to 20 minutes for a long one, the entire town is effectively split in half, with emergency vehicles unable to cross from one side to the other. The final stretch is where things stop making sense entirely. Number 35, there's a section of the Mississippi River where the state's own official boundary line follows the river's course as it existed in the 1800s, except the river has since changed course multiple times due to natural shifting, meaning the legal state line and the actual river are now in two completely different physical locations, with land that's geographically in Arkansas but legally still part of Mississippi. Number 36. The town of Shaw built a new water tower as a major infrastructure investment, but failed to update the connecting pipe infrastructure underneath it, meaning the tower exists as a fully functional, freshly painted landmark that's been disconnected from the actual water system it was built to serve, a monument to itself. Number 37. Mississippi technically has a law that requires certain road construction projects to include scenic considerations, but the law never defines what counts as scenic, leading to one infamous project where a stretch of highway was redesigned with extra curves specifically to improve the view, adding nearly 10 minutes to the commute for absolutely no measurable benefit. Could you imagine a longer drive, by law, for aesthetics? Number 38. There's a town where the local cemetery is, due to historical land surveying errors, technically located in the middle of what's now zoned as a residential street, meaning a portion of an active public road legally overlaps with burial plots, a fact that only comes up during utility work, when crews occasionally have to pause because they've hit something nobody expected. Number 39. The state once approved funding for a bridge replacement project, but a subsequent budget shortfall meant only the approach roads to the bridge were completed, leaving two perfectly paved roads on either side of a river, leading directly to where a bridge should be, with nothing connecting them. The roads have existed this way for years. Number 40. Mississippi technically has a law on its books that addresses dueling, yes, the old pistols at dawn kind, that has never been formally repealed, meaning it exists alongside thousands of modern statutes as a strange legal fossil nobody bothered to remove. Number 41. There's an entire town where, due to a mapping error decades ago that was never corrected, the Main Street address numbering skips an entire block of numbers, meaning if you're delivering mail or looking for a specific address, you'll find the numbers jump from the 200s directly to the 500s, with the 300s and 400s simply not existing anywhere in the town. Number 42. The town of Friars Point. Yes, we're back here. Also has a boat ramp that was constructed at a point along the river where the water level has shifted so significantly since construction that the ramp now ends roughly 15 feet above the current water line during normal conditions, making it functionally useless except during flood season when it becomes briefly, ironically, perfect. Number 43. And finally, somewhere in the Mississippi Delta, there's a stretch of farmland where the official county line runs diagonally through the middle of a single field, owned by one farmer, meaning that farmer technically pays property taxes to two different counties for the same continuous patch of soybeans, and when asked which county he considers home, he reportedly just shrugs and says, "Depends on the day." And there you have it. 43 reminders that the line between charming small-town quirk and complete infrastructure catastrophe is thinner than anyone in Mississippi seems willing to admit. Honestly, some of these places probably don't even see themselves as broken, just differently organized. So now it's your turn. Which one of these absolutely floored you? And do you know of an even bigger local fail that didn't make the list? Drop it in the comments because I guarantee there's at least one more out there that'll make this whole list look tame. And hey, if you made it this far, you clearly enjoy watching infrastructure fall apart in slow motion. So stick around because there's a lot more of this where it came from.